See, that's what I mean. It can.
Yeah. The grass is good. Have to deal with it eventually.
That's with the sugar.
Yeah, I bet. I was wondering about you guys.
Is it flowing or not? No,
Everything's
it's done. Everything's done.
Everything watered right now.
And that's early to be
We
done
made about 60% of what we normally do.
because we had those hot
No,
days.
They killed it.
I mean, it was like 70.
Soured it right out.
75 degrees.
It won't
2
say
days.
bud, right? It's over.
Recording in
Last week.
progress.
Okay, it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions? None. Okay. The next item is public comments, and if there's anybody in here that is not already on the agenda, now is your chance to speak.
So if it's a topic that's not
Topic that's
already.
not already on the agenda. The Glebe Lot Road is, there's other things, but if there's anybody in here that has anything besides what's on the agenda, then now's the time. Either in the room or on the Zoom call. Hearing none, I will go on to number 4, which is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by Cynthia to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All are in approval. Okay. New business, Glebe Lot Road discussion. And I understand there's a presentation, Nick. Is that right?
Yes, here to
Okay.
talk about it.
If you wouldn't mind, just introduce yourself and then the floor is yours.
Great, I'll start. My name is Doug Goulette. I work for the Bowman Company. We're out of Williston, Vermont. We are engineers, surveyors, a lot of other things, but that's our primary focus. We are hired by Red Mountain 2 LLC. A little while back, they want to do a 4-lot subdivision of a property they own up on the side of Red Mountain Road, or Red Mountain, that is, sort of north and west of a couple roads up there. Beyond Raven Rock Road, and Glebe Lot Road, in that area of town, if you will. So in kind of doing our due diligence, early on, we looked like we normally do at tax maps and road maps and such. And, like in all towns, for a subdivision to happen, you need either access, to a town road from a right of way, or actually have frontage on a town road. So that was our first focus, and that's what brings us here tonight. Is we believe, fortunately, that your tax maps and road maps are inaccurate, and that Glebe Lot Road, which currently, physically looks like a short section of road out there, and Similarly, on the tax map, it shows it being, fairly short and dead ending. Through our research, we think that it in fact continues north all the way to the Sandgate property line, and it's a class 4 road. And that the road also passes through the southwest corner of the 33 acres that we're interested in subdividing. So the intent would be to utilize, improve that class 4 road, a section of it, up to the property that we are interested in subdividing to a class 3 standard, and use that as access for the property. So we're here tonight to Gerald Stockman is licensed surveyor from Bowman, has done a good amount of research. He's got some tools and such that are great to kind of illustrate and support why we think Weave Lot Road is where we're going to present it tonight. Tax maps show a road coming off of Raven Rock Road, or at least a right of way, which and we can get into this a little bit more showing the maps. We don't believe that's supported with any physical evidence that there was ever a road there. It goes right through the Hyatt property, and center of the line of the road goes through their garage. It just doesn't, nothing makes sense. Again, I think that leads to what we're concluding is that Weave Lot Road was never mapped properly. And we're here to hopefully show you some evidence as to where we think it is. And get your approval, if that's possible, that you agree with our presentation. Weave Lot Road is as we're going to show it tonight. I guess I'll pass it to Gerald. I know, Nick, you've got some PDFs of the same thing.
I'm happy to pull them up as necessary.
Yeah, I don't know what's easier. I know there's people
The
open
board are the
up.
people who make the decision, so let's show them the physical people.
Would you mind if I spread these out on the table?
Not at all.
Okay.
And, the people, neighbors, whatever, are certainly invited. We're not here just to present it.
Around the table. It's also in the board packet online, if you want to look at it from the reason of that, if you click on the latest.
Any plan that you could bring up, probably that shows on the screen, disclose it.
Yeah, a whole. One of
The ones with the longer names on.
Yeah, so,
Find a particular one of these.
Explain this.
That's Cheater Road right there.
That?
Cheater Road.
Okay, here we go. Blank. Just the ground. And then that, this is that is up there. I think people might be familiar with the waterfalls. And
Where's
stuff.
north of this?
You're north. Wait. Let me just make sure I'm correct.
Maybe you gotta start with
Yeah.
some lines on it.
So yeah, this is.
Town lines up here.
Yep.
So this is here.
So this is Sandgate.
Correct.
We've got
I
we've got a
didn't, I
map.
didn't
of
quite
it.
get the
You
same.
didn't- okay.
But so this is the mathematical calculated alignment of Weave Lot Road. So
I don't know what you mean by that.
that's plan. So the in order for a road to come into existence, you need to have it, well, the select board needs to decide that it's necessary. And then they hire a surveyor to lay it out, which is to go out there and survey the route they want to do. And then you just describe it in it's a road layout. It's kind of like a deed. It's not called it. Anyway, it's a legal document that gets recorded at the town clerk's office. And that has bearings and distances, which describe the general route of the road. Okay. So this one started at the town's, at a stake and stones at the Sandgate town line up in the mountains. And then, had a description going through, and it said it started at the Sandgate town line at someone's property. I don't recall the actual name, but, and it ended at a road going from someone's property to someone else's property. We're assuming that's Red Mountain Road. That's the only one that makes any sense.
So that's from the records in the town clerk's
Correct.
office.
Yeah, and we have a copy of that. If
Okay.
anyone wants to see the difficult
It's
to read.
1817, so you have to remember it's 200 years old, so.
That needs to be straight.
I'm going to do all of this, thank you. So as you can see, these are, particular lines, and you can kind of tell that it's going along here. It's the general shape, all right? Does everyone,
Could you locate Red Mountain Road, Raven Rock Road or
so
something?
this is,
Red-
I mean,
Maybe a plan with more lines on it.
yeah, let's just, yeah.
I mean, because this is so abstract.
Right, I just wanted to show you that this is the ground with no boundaries on it, and then we'll move
Just
on to
terrain.
something. that's
Just
easier to
terrain.
tell. I want to explain what this map is. This is the same technology that they use to like find the ancient Indian ruins down in South America.
It looks like it can look through the
It's
trees.
derived by LiDAR, it's called Hillshade. And anyone can go on there online and search for Vermont Hillshade.
We use this on the Red Mountain project for those of you on the board.
Yeah.
That's how I mapped that.
Yeah, and this is,
Here on the screen.
so that's
Just a different.
a different map. So those that won't get to.
That has property lines.
Right,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna find the one that.
So this is really just to show the technology of.
And then we can discuss it.
It takes out buildings, takes out treetops.
All right, this is-
I know, but without the existing roads, it's really hard for me.
Yeah, and I didn't even know where I was looking, so that makes sense. All right, so this is Raven Rock Road. Yeah, see, this is Red Mountain Road.
This is Red Mountain Road.
Yeah, and
Okay,
this is
Red
Ra-
Mountain
And
Road.
this is Raven Rock.
Nick, for
And this is-
reference, can you put your pointer on Raven Rock for me?
Nick?
Yes. Well, you'll.
I just want to make sure I pointed it right,
On
that's
Raven
all.
Rock.
So Raven Rock is this road that comes off. It starts right here at junction of Red Mountain Road. Number C.
Ah, Perfect,
The end of the existing road right there. In front of the
thank you, thank you.
All right, so this map, and you'll have to ignore these lines. They're like, these are all individual pictures, just the lines between the red lines.
They're not property lines.
Right, I forgot to turn them off for this particular map, but, so, and these dashed lines are actual correct property lines. These aren't based off the tax map, they're kind of lined up with the actual survey that was done on the Red Mountain 2 property. So these, and you can tell that there's like a stone wall that matches here. You can see where the property lines are. And so this right here, without any of our assumptions put on here to give you any, like, I don't want to make it look like I'm trying to steer anyone in a particular way and bias you. That's why I wanted to have this. So as you can see, this is the calculated line, and this is the actual like roads that are in the woods.
Of what? Of Lee Block Road?
This is what Lee Block Road layout looks like mathematically. And these are the same scale, so
Starting there?
this is just the shape and we can put this wherever we want. This is
Okay,
so we,
this
this is so we can move it around and
Right.
kind of see how it would look.
so this is
depending on-
Raven Rock, right? This is Raven Rock.
Right.
This is Raven Rock, and this is the actual, right, this is a driveway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the actual.
Well,
Lee
this
Block
is,
Road.
this is what the tax map called Lee Block Road. It says, there's a sign right here that says private Lee Block.
Right,
Okay.
and, but I can see there's a road there, okay.
Right, and you
All right.
can, and there is also, so you go up in here and it is very clear that the gardeners do not want you there because so we only walked up here and took a picture of the gate because we don't want to go on people's property who don't want us there, so. But there is a relatively well improved road of some sort coming off, and this is the gardener's driveway, and this is I guess the Langs property here. So that's the general location of our.
The road that's improved, however, it was improved by Holtzman only, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago.
We have someone to speak to that too. So, but regardless of when it was improved, that doesn't really matter to what we're doing. So as you can tell, that this lines up with some of these lines going through here. Depending on where you, like, say, if you hold this right here, what I believe John Wright did when he came up with his alignment, what he said on the plat, and that's the survey, which we'll show in a second here. He held this corner and just tried to see where it met Red Mountain, and then just, because I believe he only actually went out and surveyed it here, and he wasn't using the hill shade, so he didn't see where the rest of the road. But when you do that, you end up way off of the road over here. That's like, so you really can't just take the entire alignment and assume it's going to be good if you put it anywhere. Because like, if you hold these two spots, the road ends up going way off where there's no evidence of any roads. So you really can't use this as the end all be all for where the road right only is. And the ancient roads law with the 2006 or whatever it is, that kind of was put to bed all of the unknown roads that were like in the records, but no one had known about them forever, and the towns were required to get them on the highway maps before 2015 or whatever it was. I don't know if y'all are aware of that.
I am aware of that. I don't remember anything about this road, but I may not be remembered.
Well, it's on the highway map now, so I'm assuming it. And there's a 2007, there's some notes that we found that suggested to get added. And that was recovered from the clerk's office. So anyway, at that time, anything that was put on the town highway maps is forever a town road unless the select board decides to throw it out or yeah. So I don't know why this exists. It's just a map with some scribbles on it, but it's clearly.
Yeah, but it means something.
Well, it's evidence that they had put it on the town. This looks like it was to instruct someone to add it to the highway maps.
So this came from John Wright, who was
Yeah, I
the
don't
previous surveyor. So we don't know what the source of it
So
is, but
You're saying that right away that Nance found is something you don't want to use?
Well, you'll notice so what he did was he held this corner right here and then just saw wherever it hit Red Mountain Road and just said, this is a possible place you could put it. He's not saying that that's definitely where the right of way is, because you have to have clear observable evidence of the road on the ground in order for that to be the location of the road. And there is absolutely no clear observable evidence through most of this last leg. So that can't be where the road is. So that's.
But isn't it in book saying it is?
No,
It is.
it is not. Thank you very much. The only documents that can tell you where this road is the original road money. Nothing that has been created since then has actually put this road on the ground. So the only two things you can go by are that road layout and where there is evidence of a road on the ground.
but they may have laid it out in 1817 without a road. They might have been
Yeah.
following a road at some point,
Yeah,
and then the road ended, and they said, we want it to go to Red
From
Mountain
here to here.
Road.
And that's what the layout says. It says at the beginning, it says the intent of this layout is to go from this person's house or this person's property to this other person's property in Sandgate, or from Sandgate to someone on.
You
what we're
have something
assuming.
saying something about that layout that you can read,
Says,
that we can read?
Yes, and it's, I think,
the 89
You have to
select
be able to
board
read
meeting,
cursive very.
we have Sandgate line to Green, the east line to Red Mountain Road. The highway was laid out by the selectmen of Arlington, 1817, recorded in 1817, book 6, page 204.
yeah, we have a copy of that. If you want to watch it.
And
So-
through time, people that live up there have told us that road, Raven Rock, continues right up past Light.
Right, but
And
there's
it got
no
kind of-
evidence of a
This is
road
the
there.
map from the-
Like if you go up there, there's no evidence at all.
Well,
of a road
that, it grew up because people stopped using it.
Right, but if you look at this, all of these roads are probably grown up. Like you will go out there, you'll never see them.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm trying to tell you. It's just, It's grown up, but the road did go that way at one time. And over time, somebody said, well, it's easier to go through the gardener's land than to go up through there where they should have. Gone.
Right,
That's the
but
whole
if-
point of that, Matt.
Yeah,
though,
and
is
then
when
I'll-
things
I'll-
grow up, you can still
I'll
see. the
show you
old
why that
roads.
doesn't,
But this part is just like way too straight for it to be what
Right.
goes through the gardener's land. That's like, yeah.
Right.
right, but also it's so straight. I don't know if that's 110 or 101 rods
Yeah.
long, which is 1,600 feet.
Mhm.
Find me a road that's that straight in
In
Vermont.
Yeah.
That's 600 feet.
Yeah.
There's
Not just Vermont, but on Red Mountain.
Yeah, but
That's
that's-
why in 1817, this was just an approved road.
Right,
Well, it was
exactly.
a
That's
vision.
exactly
It was
right.
a-
This
yeah.
is, well, I think that's a hill, actually.
But I
Like
think
a-
it still stands.
Yeah, we looked at
We
that.
we were thinking it was a meteor strike too, but,
Well, I was thinking cellar hole, but it's pretty high up.
well, actually, there's a cellar hole right here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and these are really neat if you ever want to lose 15 minutes of your life by accident. Just go
But you bring up a good point, because that's the whole purpose of this. If you try to lay this starting at the end of Raven Rock, it doesn't follow, it never follows any roads up in the woods. It's just, there's no way that this alignment puts you at the end of Raven Rock. It only
Or
makes
on Red
sense.
Mountain. Raven Rock, I don't believe existed when they did.
So, but the select board minutes that you were referring to here were from 1989. Do we have any select board minutes from 2007 on this
I
map?
believe that we have some.
You do, however, the select board said that they could not guarantee that they knew where that road was, and they left it up to Holtzman on his word as to where that road went.
Was that when they wanted to get a permit to do some work up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just,
They wanted to improve the
yeah,
road.
they
And,
declined to make a
Yeah.
ruling as to where the road actually is. And they've done that in the 80s, they did it in 2000, in the early 2000s.
The history has been, they kind of kicked this down the road
Well,
for,
they did, yeah.
So, but right now, what we're talking about, a town road that was laid out in 1817 as a town road, and it's now a class 4 road or an ancient road.
Class 4.
Yeah.
Class
there's-
4, but Glee Block Road is classified as a private road.
Right.
Well,
And
there's
the town does
there-
not
There's a
maintain
sign
it.
that says private road.
that's.
Does the town maintain that road?
No,
They don't. they-
never.
They,
They've been
they,
there for
It was probably a
almost
big
30
mistake.
years. And they've
I
never-
just wanna,
Yeah.
trying to make sure I understand,
Yep.
you know, where we are. Okay,
class 4 roads are often not maintained.
They're not
Right.
maintained true.
Yeah,
right, and we got Holly Mountain Road, you know,
Right.
it's like, and there's people living up there, so,
right.
okay.
So why can't they just use that right away that was down?
Because that's not what the road is. That would be illegal.
Well, I would like them to finish their presentation,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
Maybe a few more
absolutely
different maps with some
ask
lines
all
on
the
it.
questions, but I wanna know whatever he's got to show us, let's see it.
To be clear, the LiDAR technology takes away all of the vegetation.
Right.
And you are left only with terrain.
Exactly.
Right, but some of these are probably streams or something.
That's
These are streams.
entirely.
Yeah,
possible.
This is 100% log.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
the streams look like this.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, because they're
Yeah.
indented, yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, this Arlington Industries, I believe, has obviously
So-
logged considerably on their property.
Okay, so let me,
So north just changed. If
Oh,
you
yeah,
want to
sorry,
keep
let me-
going in the same direction.
North is that way, so it's laying that way.
We'll just, we,
This is what we were looking at before, so let's.
we'll just keep it the same way.
okay, so
So
let's,
this,
so.
this,
wait,
this red line is how, John Wright laid it out, or
That's-
stuck it on.
Who's Sean, right?
He's the surveyor who did this survey.
So we took over
Before
from him.
surveyor before, for whom?
He
client.
he performed this
Same
survey for Red Mountain too, and then they declined to keep going with for this. So
And is a surveyor
he's a licensed landscaper.
but is it hired by the town or hired by
The
who?
same people that we,
Holtzman.
Boltzmann's.
Okay, so there's definitely a bias
No.
there.
Well, theoretically, we're all professionals and there is no bias. We
So it,
tell you what.
you're,
Could be-
I
There could be.
I assure you that we're not going to put our livelihoods on the line for someone that we don't really know. like it's fast.
How many
It's not gonna be
surveys
a
in
road,
the
it's
last
not-
decade or so?
Yeah, and we would lose a lot of money in the future.
How many
if we-
We get sued.
surveys have gone up there over the
Yeah,
last
we don't really
decade?
care what Glebe Lot Road is.
Yeah,
We're just-
I personally, I live.
We don't
I live
care.
2.5 hours from you. It doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
Like,
So the red line on that map is basically the same red line, right? We're holding the same
With
geometry
the
and you
same
can,
straight,
you can
section
twist
there.
it, you can turn it however you want.
and where's Red Mountain Road again?
it's
it off
not
of
on
this?
where-
It's not on?
yeah, it's where-
So this is Raven Rock, and this is Glebe
Glebe
Lot
Lot.
as it exists now.
Well,
And what's-
wait. This doesn't exist right now.
Okay,
Well, it
This
does,
is, this, wait,
yeah.
just let me finish.
Yeah.
This is the road that exists right now.
Well, there is also a road here.
Yeah.
But
Whole
this
different-
this is the Gardner's driveway, you know, for all intents and purposes.
Right.
And it's called Glebe Lot Road, which we can't tell you why, but it is.
and what's this?
So,
Logging Road?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
yes.
So that's our first giveaway, right? Is Glebe Lot Road is named Glebe Lot Road down there. So why wouldn't we start there and assume that that's where this ends
Because it
up?
was a mistake when we did it, when we named it.
I
If
mean,
it didn't
Well,
exist, why
what,
would you name
where,
it?
so where is it then? If it's not there,
Well, it was years
That's-
ago because there was land up in there that the church used to buy for,
right?
yeah, that's what a glebe is. Yes.
yeah, and that's why the road went up past Hyatt to get them up in there because there's land up in there that the town owns that was abandoned.
Hmm.
We think was a glebe road or glebe land.
Yeah.
So why would they go the direction of Gardner's? Why wouldn't they just go that way right from the
So,
get-go?
so at this time, Gardner's property was a much larger piece of land. There was no houses there. So like thinking of why would you go through Gardner's property is a red herring. There's no, like you gotta think about 1817 time, not now.
There was nothing else.
Yeah, there was literally probably no people up here. Except for maybe some person who lived at that.
Well, in order to get that land, they have to go over a brook.
Right,
So why would they go
Because-
over a brook
because,
when they could
there's a
go
brook
right up
right here.
straight? Yeah, that's,
yeah, this brook comes all the way up here, so you
I
gotta
know,
cross
I
it
live
sometime.
there, so
Yeah.
I know it goes up straight and over. And why would anybody cross a brook when they can go right up straight? And it just got filled
They still
in.
have to cross the brook.
Well,
Not
we-
necessarily if they get up to where Holtzman wants to put the houses.
I guess our point is when you look at the end of Raven Rock, there's nothing that looks like a road ever has come
Here.
off that.
Yeah,
right there.
like here, look, there's no evidence of a road
That's
whatsoever.
Hyatt?
Yes,
Yeah.
And the right of way that shows goes this way.
well, this is what Wright had shown as a,
No, the right of way that shows on the maps that's wrong.
Tax maps.
correct, I do show that on another.
Okay, well,
on
maybe it
another-
doesn't matter. What,
Yeah.
what else do we have to know about this? We don't have to
So
go.
to answer your
basically-
question, though, the tax map doesn't follow this line either. So
Right,
Right,
it-
right,
it's-
right.
yeah,
I
It's a
got
whole
it. I got
different,
it.
a
No,
whole
I got
different
it.
alignment.
I got it.
So the point of this map is to show how Wright's, location of where he put the line on here gets really kind of ridiculous if you hold that. Cause I
But he
mean,
did it.
So this is,
So did Mans.
so this
well,
is,
man's was
No,
worse.
but they didn't
Wright
locate,
Wright worked for.
they didn't locate the physical evidence out in the
Yeah,
woods.
they-
so this is the road based on the evidence and the facts on the ground.
Well, the
in
facts
wood.
that we see on
Yes.
on the
That you
hillside,
see a road.
right?
We traced,
Did you go up here?
No,
You
we,
didn't go up here.
no, we're using this to see it.
I think you need to go up there.
Well, we got to the edge of Gardner's property and it was very clear that we were
That's
not.
why I said there's a
welcome.
Right over there, so you can
This-
get across
go-
it and
go-
hike up in there.
This is Wright's overlay.
They got a road that takes you right up
This,
into that
this road
ravine.
actually continues from here and it goes all the way out, like going across.
Right out to the land that they
With
wanted to
the
develop.
right of way. So if you get the bigger map, you can actually tell where this, because there is other road and there is right of way. This road that they want us to believe is part of it comes off of here. And then this is Gardner's house, and this is another one of their lots, and this road goes all the way through it, joining both lots.
Right.
And
Wait,
there's no,
this road,
the green,
the green, the what they're proposing.
There's no evidence, there's no documentation to support that whatsoever.
So I guess our argument, I mean, I agree. I sympathize with the gardeners. It stinks to realize that there may be a class 4 road running through your property.
No, it's not. It's
not a class
private
four.
road. It's private
Well,
road.
if it's, we're saying it is Glebe Blot Road, that's what the intended layout was. It matches and it falls at that location. It doesn't fall anywhere else. There's no roads anywhere up in these woods
That's why we're here.
that would prove that it somehow comes off the end of Raven Rock. It just,
So,
like this map shows, it's starting 1.2 miles from the town line. You know,
This proves it, right?
which is where all those roads cross the town line is at 1.2, so that's.
I'm gonna turn this towards the same
Yeah.
direction.
This
Or
is
is that-
Where's that actual blue lot that the town apparently owns?
We're not sure,
You're not sure?
because we do know
Oh,
that,
it's over here. It's way over.
yeah,
over there.
it's probably here.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't, if
Yeah.
it was in here, I want to know where.
Well,
Right, so
remember,
this
It's not
lot,
deeded. I know there's a big problem, but I just wanted
Well, and
to.
it would have
this-
existed prior to 1817, so
yeah,
we're talking ancient history here.
yeah, your tax maps suggest that this lot is owned by the town. We don't,
Which lot?
this one right here, this is this lot that Wright surveyed. And the tax map says that this lot is owned by the town. We haven't looked into that at all. So this is possibly town land that wherever Glebe Lot Road is allowing access to.
Well, that was what I was trying to get at, because if it's called Glebe Lot Road, it would have been meant to get to the Glebe
Oh, yeah,
Lot.
absolutely.
So where is the Glebe Lot? That is my
It
question.
says
What says it?
the layout from 1817,
Yeah.
the legal document that makes this road exist.
Okay.
That right there is, well, roughly Glebe Lot Road. That's the town island. His property.
Yeah, that's what we don't know
That's
the
Glebe Lot
history of
Road.
that.
What? Okay.
You're way up here for the town.
So it's over
Yeah,
there.
so the reason that I created this map was it's overlaid with the tax map. That's what these blue lines are. And I wanted to show that for some reason, it was mapped coming off of the end of Raven Rock Road. And there is no evidence of a road. It kind of goes on top of some of the logging roads that are on Maya's property or the town property here. So it kisses some roads in a couple places, which may be why they put it here, but like over here, there's definitely no roads within hundreds and hundreds of feet. So, personally, I don't see how this could ever, and it also doesn't line up. It's not that shape either. So, which you had a good instinct there. Yeah.
So there's some parts of it. I mean, there's that, it almost echoes some parts of it, the shape.
Yeah.
See, it kind of echoes the shape, but not in the,
But not in the right
not in
location.
the same place.
Yeah, but this road certainly does.
That road does, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I made this.
But,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you look at the tax map, blue line here, there's no roads out in the woods that follow any of this, it's just.
Based on,
That's where the tax map
The
showed.
tax maps are notoriously.
I know, but based on what we're seeing through this technology,
Right.
there's no evidence of a road.
Follows the tax map.
Yes, exactly.
So Mr. Stockman said that there is no intersection with Raven Rock. This is it right here,
Mhm.
the pink, that's Raven Rock. This is what goes to Gardner's.
Right, this green is what goes to Governors and it's called Glebe Road. We can't tell you why, but it is. Like that's just a fact. That you
So
need
it's
to
not,
consider.
it's not the public. Legal, it's not public.
And when was that, when were those houses built? When was that subdivision done that, when it became Blue Flat Road?
9/11.
Never put there when we bought up there.
Yeah.
Right.
We went by Raven Rock.
That
I think that-
lot never got
I
put
think-
there until 911.
Exactly.
Oh,
911 is when
right.
that road had to be
Right,
named.
right, because that's what I was getting at, is like,
Because you had more than three
where did the
residences
names
on the
come
road.
from? You know, that's what I was getting at.
When it gets
Yeah.
the third residence.
When the third residence is there, it has to be named.
Right.
So are those folks available to ask a question to, as to why they decided that? Because they might have some insight into why they decided that should be
Yeah,
called.
were you on the
Road.
board in 1989?
I don't-
Man,
I'm-
talk about
I'm-
being put
pressure's on
on.
now.
I'm grasping at straws
Yeah,
as to
yeah.
whether the town actually owns the glebe lot anymore. I don't think we do.
Well, the town's
I don't know, that's-
technically own it, Turkey.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but
you
that's
said
a,
there was town
that's a
property.
separate issue,
Very
but
much
that's a separate issue. The
yeah.
only reason I was asking about that was this idea that if there was a glebe lot owned by the church or now by the town, whatever, my understanding is it's undeeded, it's not even existing sort of as real property. But if there was a glebe lot, this road would have originally gone to it. That's
Of
all
course.
we're might have, and that's all I was getting.
That's only.
Yeah, that's
and-
the
and-
assumed purpose of
And
it.
it-
Right,
Yeah,
and,
at the
and
end
even
of
if,
residence.
and that might have been a reason for people naming that road the glebe lot. I mean, usually the board solicits proposals from the residents, what they want it named.
Okay.
And
They
then,
do that
and
now.
then,
That's what the
yeah.
911.
Yeah.
Well, but in 2007, the town generated this map where they were looking at new trails. And they decided to add to the highway maps on the walls.
Mhm.
In 2007, they wanted to add 1.37 miles of class 4 road called Glebe Lot Road. Going up to Glebe Lot right there, which is 1.2 miles from there, which brings you right up to,
The right shape.
but it didn't get
well,
added, did it?
no.
No, it's definitely on.
Oh, yeah.
It's on the map.
It's on the
map.
And I can,
Right.
I could add one little thing here, which is that the logic behind that, and that was related to me by the previous administration, was that there are abandoned brick kilns right for the Sandgate town line supposedly near or on or viewable from this
Charcoal
right of
kilns?
way.
Not brick kiln, charcoal kiln.
Okay, yes, charcoal kilns, that there are kilns up there at the top of the mountain, right at the end of the road. I have never been up there. I have, in part because I don't know where this right of way is, and I didn't want to trespass.
I've seen them in Benedict Hollow, but I've never been up to
Yeah,
this
they're-
part. Usually you just see the,
It is
The
in the
brick
history,
structure
Bill Budd's
line.
History of Arlington does
Yeah.
mention those, in his book. So we know that there is, in the official history of Arlington, we know that is something that is talked about.
That's possibly what these squares.
That must be.
This map has it just going
Oh.
from.
Yeah, that's the tax map.
okay.
Yeah, that's what this blue line is.
That's, yeah, that's the tax.
Sorry.
That's the problem.
Josh,
It was me.
No worries.
You're gonna pick on Josh. All right, so, okay, so we have,
This is glebe lot, and this is up in here is how they wanna go up in.
Yeah, that's where that, I mean,
If you see, this is the town of Arlington map back in 23. You know, this is our driveway, and this is where they wanna go up in to get up to them 4 lots.
okay, so these lots are over here.
well, this
Yeah,
is just
and
one
it
lot.
is our private
Okay.
too.
So, okay, so
Subdivided.
So we see the evidence of existing roads in the map. We've seen what Wright did, we see this.
Right.
So what is it actually that you are proposing?
Well,
I mean, are you proposing this? or what?
no, I mean, which one?
Well, it might be better if we zoom in on the one. On the screen.
Which one is that?
It's the one that's up right now.
This yellow line is what we believe is. And this is really what we would need to decide, like, we're very confident here. And this green line is what we think is the most likely place.
So
for
up on the screen, it
development.
might be a little easier to see. Just,
Yeah, it's blowing right up, blowing up right in there.
So to answer your question, we don't really care where Glebe Lot Road is, way to hell up here. What we really care about is to say, we think this alignment brings you, based on the deed description, it brings you down to Glebe Lot Road, whether that's an accident that by naming or somebody knew something.
Earlier, you stated that this one here would go right through Hyatt's garage. She doesn't even have a garage.
No, we're
No,
talking,
no, we're Raven Rock.
we're talking about,
Up straight.
So we're talking about the tax map showing it going straight off the end.
Straight up off
So-
River Rock.
So the Hyatt
Yeah.
survey, which we're looking at right here, does not show, he never found any evidence that Raven Rock extended to the north, or the glebe block came down through the Hyatt property. He comes down and does some weird thing that kind of splits the difference between where we think it is. But I think, as Gerald said, he took that fixed road geometry and just stuck it somewhere, and that last 1,600-foot length that we don't think exists because it's so straight.
Why don't they use their land off Fisher Road? They have a right of way off Fisher Road to go up.
There's a road here. There's a road right there.
Fisher Road,
Yeah,
they
So
have,
those are all questions for them.
Comes right out to that.
This is
property.
their preference. They want to come off glebe lot.
well, our land is private. It's a private road.
Yes,
It's
that's,
not in anybody's deed in that whole area.
these,
For any
never
right-of-way.
talk about public roads.
And to note, there's also a culvert there. So if you're gonna build up there, you're going over and over a culvert multiple
already
times.
ruined
That can
It's already oblong on one side.
ruined, and then that
Well,
is
then you-
our expense that we would have to pay the neighbors on
Well, then I
Broad
would
Road
suggest
to.
asking them to upgrade it to an actual culvert instead of a big old oil.
Yeah.
Well, the
Okay,
green,
so-
if we agreed that the
That's-
green line
that's
was
counting
was the
ones.
far end of glebe lot
Yeah.
road, that would all have.
Wait,
No, I'm just saying-
wait a minute,
no,
I'm telling you,
hold on.
a true concern of mine.
Shush,
Stop,
shush,
stop.
shush.
Hold on, order.
Yes. So continue with the presentation. I can assure the people that are here, there is no decision to be made tonight.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So we're looking at what they're proposing. And that's as far as this is gonna go tonight. So you don't have to worry about that.
And the
And
board
and
can be-
everybody
we
will
will
have a
work it out.
chance to comment and to make their objections known. But I want to be sure that you gentlemen have finished the maps before we go into larger discussion.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just finish with this. So we are confident, very confident due to this part of the portion of the road very clearly being similar to the layout. This portion, since it went very straight, it seems more of an intent as or an approval to put the road somewhere. And they obviously did not go that way because there's no evidence of it when they actually built the road. The only evidence of a road on the ground that is clearly observable, you can call it a private road, you can call it a trail, you can call it whatever you want, but it is a,
By Hyatt.
yeah, it's all private property, we didn't want to like go on anyone's property
Not
tonight.
everything.
So,
Okay.
because this is the first time we've been to Arlington to this golf at all, because we're taking over for minutes. But this is the only evidence of a road or any traveled way that comes from here and never gets to the Red Mountain. So that's pretty much my presentation.
Right, we're faced with taking 1817 road geometry and trying to fit it on what we think are old roads. And this is our best match right here. The red line is the 1817 deed. The yellow line is a trace of the roads that exist out in the woods as we see it through this. So we can't come up with any scenario that Glebe Lot Road, which is a class 4 road, it exists. You're getting tax dollars for 1.37 acres. Somebody drew it incorrectly, in our view, to the end of Raven Rock, and it should have gone to the end of Glebe Lot Road. But there's no way we can get this geometry to work, or there's any physical evidence that shows Glebe Lot Road ending up at the end of Raven Rock. There's just nothing that points to that being.
One thing that I would want to do in exploring this is get Keith Squires, who was the former chair. We worked on this. I remember working on it, and it was very unclear. Even when we worked on it, it was very unclear. So there's something that you're saying this part to there, or
Well,
speculate is pretty accurate.
It seems to be.
From here to here seems to be the question.
Right, exactly.
And that was, if I recall correctly, way back, even into the 90s. That seemed to be always the issue. That short little leg. And I would want to get his input to refresh my memory on what we talked about and where we settled with where it is. Like I said, this is not a decision
No, that's fine.
made tonight, probably
We get
not in the
that.
next month.
We'll get
It's
there.
gonna take some time to really track this
Yeah.
down, and there may be no alternative, but to do something different.
Or get a
I don't
third-party
know, I
surveyor
can't
that,
say.
that the town hires, or
So,
whatever.
yes.
So,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
so looking forward, things you want to think about are,
Well, yeah,
and
everybody
that,
thinks we're
yeah,
gonna hire
in,
towns. Right,
in the
what
name
you
of-
wanna hear.
in the name of the select board, the options are going to be, one, a potential take or a potential hearing on aligning the road network to match any alignment. And it could be acknowledging an alignment presented by a third party. It could be acknowledging, or it could be seeking to discontinue this segment and saying there's too little evidence here, and the board finding too little evidence or not being confident in that evidence, saying we're going to wash our hands of this and abandon this segment to the top and say this is no longer a problem. There would be complications associated with access to that, certainly, and there would be other matters to be thinking about. And anytime you're talking about abandoning a road is not a thing to be taken lightly. You'll be wanting to seek substantial legal advice from your attorneys, and things like that as you move forward. But changing the total road network will trigger hearings for V-Trans rules. So more or less anything you're going to do, there will need to be a V-Trans constituted hearing, which likely, and typically, as I understand it, I'm not brushed up on this, requires a site visit meeting. That may involve
Certain of that.
coming up and looking at the right of way, securing permission from those of you neighboring landowners, so everyone can look at everything. Would be helpful, but everyone involved would be invited, and everyone can go and look at it together with no discussion of the thing other than asking questions.
You inform everybody.
The town would inform everyone. I'm not gonna be doing that. That's gonna be
Yeah.
after I'm gone, obviously, but certainly, the town would, there are statutory procedures on that. We have gone through that in the and
You can make it work.
so, yes, this is the first of other hearings, but changing the alignment of the road network would definitely trigger those road realignment hearings.
So I printed this off for y'all's,
Okay.
years.
And can we have,
You can have everything.
Yeah, everything will be
Um,
in here.
And this is written by Paul Gilly. He's a lawyer, but it's very,
Yeah.
and there's also, and past the yellow is a pig slot.
Gotcha.
And so those seem
Yep.
pertinent to this discussion.
Okay.
Any questions
If you
before
like
we
falling asleep
leave
faster.
that we didn't answer for you guys?
But
Can
I say something?
oh, okay, and what's your name?
My name is Jim Davis.
Oh, of course.
Okay, Jim's gonna say something.
One of the great quotes I have from, one of the great quotes I have from having a meeting with Harold over the phone, and he did a presentation to me similar to this, was that I can't say for sure if there is a road that goes in back of our gardener's house. And that just spoke volumes. Nobody knows.
Right, and that,
And
that's
that
why-
may be the fact.
that's
and that's
literally
why
why
I
we're.
wrote this down.
No,
In 1989.
Nobody's gonna rush into this.
1997,
Just saying that, nobody's gonna trample over anybody's property or rights or anything else. This is gonna be a decision that's thought out and well documented.
And our,
Because I know for the whole time I've been on the board, 37 years, this has been an issue.
Yeah.
So
And
if we have an opportunity to figure it out, I'm all for that.
Yep.
If there's no figuring it out, then we have to figure out something else.
Yeah, well, that's basically what happened in 1989, a select board meeting,
Yep.
1997,
there.
a select board meeting. It ended up getting tabled because we don't know, we need to do more research, and then the whole thing kind of went away.
Keith and I both went up and we walked around and we went up with surveyors. We're like,
In 2007?
earlier than that.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Probably the
West Bank
97.
technology.
Yeah, we did, yeah, you guys have a lot of this stuff was not existing.
Exactly.
This LiDAR is, I can't tell you how invaluable it is to define it, but because it's new technology, I mean,
Right.
not 20 years old.
And the amount of effort it takes to go and like survey where this road is
Oh,
immense.
You just
So-
keep in mind though, the people that live there
Sure.
for
Oh, yeah,
years
absolutely.
know what goes
Well, you
on,
guys have
so
intimate knowledge that we don't
Right.
have, and that's why we
just
need to
keep that in
rely.
mind, you
as
know,
well.
because.
There's gonna be all kinds of.
Like Ken said, this is not gonna be taken lightly, so.
I need to tell you where Holston's are coming. When they bought that property up there, the realtor came and told Mr. Holtzman, Mr. Holtzman ended up buying it. From the day one, we were told that it was class 4. I went to the town and said, look, we want to improve that road. No question, it was a class 4. They sent Gary Weller and Stone and Keith Squires was, I think, in charge.
He was.
They wouldn't let us do anything until they come up and approve what we were doing. We had put culverts in, thousands of, yards of gravel in, and they spent thousands of dollars to get that done. There was never in question it was a class 4.
What are we, which road are you talking about now?
I believe that.
The Glade
The Glebe
lot,
lot.
the one that goes behind the gardeners.
Okay.
So it was class 4 from the town said it was class 4, Squires said it was class 4, Weller said it was class 4. And,
So why wasn't it ever settled? If that
it was
the
settled as far as we were concerned. We even asked if we could gate it. Said, we want to put a privacy gate. We don't want people going in and out of there. They wouldn't let us. They said, it's a class 4, you can't gate it. So they
They have to reclassify it as a legal trail to keep it.
well, I'm sorry.
They would have to reclassify it as a legal
They-
trail.
Yeah, but the answer was just plain no.
Well,
They wouldn't let us do
reclassifying
it.
the road is a
Yeah, so Holston's have got thousands of dollars invested. That's obviously the best way for them to go up there. We're not looking at building a city up there or anything. He's talking about cabins, but they've been really good. They're good neighbors. They don't bother anybody. And if they had known that this was an issue when we went to the town, I'm not trying to blame the town or anybody. I'm just telling you the history. If they had known that this was an issue, they would have never done the work up there and spent thousands of dollars. But they were assured by the town it was class 4. They wouldn't let us do anything until they come up and approved it. Then they told us we had to put culverts in. And that's exactly what happened.
There was any paperwork presented to us. You know, that this was gonna happen.
Yeah,
So you bought from.
we were in the dark about all
No.
of it.
No.
Well, then what's he talking about, Blue Lot Road? You're on,
So that's my property. that
right,
They
but,
wanna go through.
right, but well, I'm really confused. You're talking about the Holtzmans improving Glebe Lot Road?
Yeah.
The one that goes behind the garden.
Did they own that property at that time?
They owned the property up there. They had bought it from,
No,
The gardeners or the whole?
oh, the gardeners? Oh, I don't know.
No,
I don't even know when they bought.
No, Price bought it.
I'm
Price
just
was
really
there.
confused about why the Holtzmans would be doing work. You're saying they were doing work on this?
They were,
Get
they
up
were,
to their
because they were
property.
accessing the property they owned above.
they were
Yes.
under the understanding that
That
was
was-
their public
That
road.
was the road.
So they went to the town.
They've done the work to the roads to get to said lots right here and going through Gardner's or Prices or whatever, but which is down there, but
See, if they had known that this was an issue, see, it was never presented to them like it was an issue at all. It never was. It was like class 4, this is the rules, this is what you have to do. We'll come up and look at it and tell you what you gotta do. And they said we had to put 3 culverts in, we ended up putting 4 culverts in and 5,000 yards of gravel or something like that. I
The
forget.
town probably should have checked more into what that land was,
At
who
that
owned
point,
it.
yeah.
But you know, even the people, the neighbors up there,
Yeah.
they don't, Holtzman don't want to be mean to anybody. They're
So I
just
have a
good
question
people.
for you. Why
Wait a minute, let me
don't they
finish.
go around the other way where they can?
Because it's a lot more expensive and a lot harder to get to. When there's a road that's already there, that they've already spent thousands of dollars
Fisher
on.
Road.
Either one's a lot more than it is
So
now.
you'd rather disrupt our lives with all that going on behind us?
They're not disrupting your
Yes,
life.
they
Yeah,
are.
you're
They're
gonna
right
ruin
in
the
our
value of my
backyard.
property.
So is it the history that the Holtzman did work on this road all the way along here?
They did it from where you turn below the gardener's house, you turn right and go up the old class 4 road, is what we were told.
This is where he's saying.
So there is a road there that the Holzmans improved.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's what I just told them. We had nobody rolled up in and
So when you,
Shouldn't have been.
the culverts were further up, as you go up, there were more stream crossings, so they went quite a ways up in along.
And we spoke to 2, 3 of the neighbors up there. I happen to be friends with a lot of the neighbors, and they all said it's always been class 4. They told us about the kilns up there, and was it Miles or something, and people always used it. There's a book somewhere that states that road went up to the kilns.
So.
Yeah, that's the one I mentioned.
So
Yep.
I know you were saying something about deeds not mentioning everything, but there's nothing in the deeds for these lots about a right of way running through them?
Right, and there typically isn't for a public road. I mean, does your deed mention your road in front of your house? I mean, mine does.
It
I've never-
typically does.
yeah.
It should.
For a public road?
Absolutely.
That's what I don't
And it
understand.
says- And it describes the road.
It
in front of your
describes
house.
the boundary along the road. I
Right,
bet you everybody's property has it.
Well,
says
and I
along the
mean, and
road.
there are certainly private right of ways for logging,
so.
for sure.
So-
Because my property down, my first lot down by Raven Rock, it clearly states right in the deed to Raven
So-
Rock Road.
So the explanation for that is clearly when they created this property, they didn't know where the road is.
But apparently there was a road there because the
There's
Holzmans
always been a
improved it.
road there.
So there's a road going through that property.
Yeah,
Well, we
But you
bought-
could think, well, it's just a lot, no
Oh,
logging
no,
road.
but it
or
wasn't, it
something.
was
Right.
there physically, but it wasn't ever mapped.
I understand
So an
that.
attorney wouldn't know, right?
So, right, they can. Right.
so they
Right.
were in the same
I-
situation
I
we are,
think
so.
an attorney would know.
We purchased
sorry.
that land 29 years ago.
That's
That was
pretty-
not
pretty,
much more than a
ridiculous to
walking
say that.
trail.
A walking trail, okay.
Say what?
And it's been
To say that an
Hold
attorney
down
wouldn't
whatever side.
recognize that there's a trail there or a road there, that's malpractice.
I mean, we all could recognize that there's
I
a
mean,
trail.
the
on the
property
road there.
has old.
Sure, that's- yeah,
If you
that
go,
doesn't
if
give
you
you
go
all the
there, if you go
information.
there. Okay, so the
You're living in
fundamental,
the
so the
right.
fundamental issue here
I disagree.
is the differences between what's on the ground in terms of where the road appears to be based on the technology. What's on the tax maps, what's on other sources of information, and then the facts on the ground in terms of where people have already built their houses, and the facts on the ground in terms of what the Holzman want to do.
Well, that's
That there's
not, that's,
conflicts among.
what they want to do is kind of irrelevant as to whatever the location of the road is, because they can't do anything until they know for certain where the access is. So, like, deciding what to do with the land is premature until you know how to get.
And importantly, for the select board, it's outside of your jurisdiction and for anyone else, that's part of it, so no one can talk about it.
Talk about what?
That the zoning, and what is to be done
Road
with the use of the
What
road,
do you mean I can't talk about the road?
because it becomes.
I can't talk about the use of the road.
Yeah, the
But
use
the
of
whole
the
thing is
road,
where is the road?
right, the use of the road, but the question here is, where is the road? Once you get into land use concerns, that is something that needs to be held in the zoning hearing, but that is duly warned and all that. But that's a later stage.
We didn't make any road. All we did was gravel and fix a road that was there.
Improve that was.
It
Just to
wasn't a
improve this.
road, though. It was a trail.
No, it was a
walking
road
trail.
because we drove our trucks up through there. I drove my pickup through there. I've been up to Holston for 43 years. And I drove my truck up through there. That road's always been there. Four-wheelers will go crazy up there. Matter of fact, there's a trail that goes right up over the top of the mountain
Have you been up here, Jim? Have you been up?
many times.
Really?
Many times. I've been here for.
No,
I've
I
got-
know. It's just, I mean, does this trail make sense to you in terms
Yeah.
of your experience?
So, but, you know, they didn't, and I feel really bad for the Holston because they've been,
Well, they could build the
mistreated.
other way and it's not.
you
end
wanna
up
pay
on
the thousands of dollars it's gonna cost to do that?
Hey,
Cause they've got
if they-
thousands
If they
invested.
wanna build a house, then that's what they'll do. They should do it because all right, have off Fisher Road, they can go, it's in their deed.
So where you live, if you said, somebody said, well, that's your road, go ahead, you can drive up it, and all of a sudden somebody comes along and said, no, you can't, you think that's okay?
Well,
I don't think
the
it's
thing
okay.
of it is, as you work told it was for class 4,
Yeah.
as we were told, until we found out it was our private land. And we have there's nothing in our deed saying that we have to have to let anybody up through there. There's nothing in there.
Well, I mean,
There's no right away.
I think the thing is that there's, that the evidence on the ground, the tax maps and the deeds are not matching up. That's the problem.
That's what.
And
needs to
the
be-
select
Yeah,
board is
and
gonna
that's
have to take
literally
this
what
under
we're-
advisement
That's
and
literally
figure out
what
what to do.
But some things do
And-
match up. Like the 1817 deed, if you add up all the distances all the way to the end, it's 1.37 miles. You look at the 2007 map that's in front of you
The
there.
yellow one?
No, right here, this one in
Yeah, they clearly
2007.
added up
The select board said, okay, we're gonna do 1.37. You know, it starts at Sandgate and goes down, so that 1817 deed was added basically to that map so that, and it's labeled now on your current maps as a class 4 road.
What do you mean when you say 1817 deed?
That's
The road deed, the
The road
description of the
deed.
road that gave you this,
Okay.
right, that's 1.37 acres. So the intent of the select board in 2007 was to take Leeblaw Road, the 1.37 acres, make it a class 4, and they added it to the road map, so they got state funding for it.
And which they shouldn't have, because they were going across private land.
Well, they weren't determining where it was.
Right,
We're
right.
just
I'm just
proving
saying, Leeblaw Road does exist. It's legally there. It's legally on the town highway maps. The only question is physical location.
Right.
That we think is the only quick questions. Where is it on the ground? But, you know, whether it exists or not, I don't think it's a question. And we are strongly of the opinion it does not come off the end of Raven. If the Hyatts were there, I'm sure they would.
Matter of
They have
fact,
to build
there
a
was-
house, they'll build a road through their garage.
There was an old truck up there. At the end of that road, there was an old truck up there that, I gave it to the man that has the house with all the stuff around it, when you're going up to my house. And he was collecting junk, and I said, well, go cut it up, you can have it, but there was a truck up there. As you go up and make the right to go into where that lot is of the 33 acres, there was a truck there. An old Dodge.
And we probably drove it up there and it died. And they said, okay.
I talked to the guy that owned it, and that's what he said. I said, died, I left it there.
Going up there, believe it.
So, regarding your comments, Jim, on the improvements, my supposition is that Keith and Gary and Eugene, at the time, my recollection is when we gave up roads or when we took over roads, when people did the development, that we want to make those a town road.
Mhm.
The policy of the town, which it still is the policy of the town, is we will look at taking it over, you got to bring it up to state.
They
In
never,
other words, culverts, yeah, plus 3.
yeah, but they never want to do that.
But they probably didn't go that far, is my guess.
Then,
If I can clarify, because this is still on the maps as a legal town road, that the town is still held to bringing this road up to code at
Correct.
some point, if it is not discontinued at some point. It is only certain segments that the town is bound to make improvements on, and they're way up now.
Yeah.
So whatever happens down here, the town may unrelated to everything, way up beyond the Holton property, have a great interest in, at minimum, abandoning above that point. Putting certainty to the segment that you guys are actually really reasonably certain on. And one that no one really cares about, it sounds like, except for maybe Mr. Miles. But you can be the guy who shows up to that meeting, at which point they discuss that. This is still different because ultimately accessing that segment until it's discontinued gives the town a clock, and that clock says by 2034, those segments need to be dealt with at some point. So
Even on a trail.
yes, class 4.
Yeah, this is, I don't want to jump on your
No,
butt.
no, it's
but-
on the MRGP mapping as that shows that there are segments up above this that need to be improved, for A&R. So
Okay.
that's what I'm referring to.
Dan, can we make sure that everybody in the audience has a chance to say
Yep.
what they're, maybe we can sit down. or
Have you guys?
I think we're done, but you
everything
can
that
also
you
go.
need?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think what we should do is anybody that has any, you can summarize your concerns, so we have an outline. I think we will have a larger hearing specifically for this subject and nothing. The subject meeting, moving forward, but I also, like I said, I would like to Pete's brain and that sort of thing, but, this is a lot of it, I got. And testing my memory, because I was up there, it's testing my memory over about a 30-year period. So I need to refresh, and, I think the board has had some of the information. But we want to hear from you folks individually, what your concerns are, so that we have that in mind as well. And we'll just go around the room, and just raise your hand, identify yourself, and if you don't take some. Yeah. Our town secretary is on the Zoom call, so she will have this information for us. If you can just identify yourself, and then in 2 minutes or 5 minutes, state what your concern is. So let's start on that side, and we'll just go right across.
I'm Joan Nash, I'm the land use administrator for Arlington. My concern is that, I believe that Lloyd had the, right idea. And, the basic shape of his road that went through there. And when you look at that shape, it's definitely shows that it is not going through the private property below. If you take a continuance of that last leg, it's kind of long, goes straight across. I gotta get my hands on a map, but if you can see that whole wide, like 30 foot or 50 foot right way, goes all the way across the mountain.
Mhm.
So it wasn't just ending at Raven Rock, it was something that the town had already planned out for many, many years. And I think that, there's no merit to the idea that because the select board had agreed to a town road plan in was it 1817, that's no longer valid. I mean, if it was agreed to, is there a time limit on it? Just because you can't find evidence of
Not to my
road being
knowledge.
there? So that just doesn't make any sense.
Unless back, probably going back at least 20 years, we had a time period where we could identify ancient roads, is how they call it, and we could either keep them or throw them up. And that was done, and I'm not saying every road was abandoned, but it was a state, the state was trying to clean up these kinds of messes.
Yeah.
By taking and either decide that that's where it is or don't.
Yeah.
And if it's not, and you don't want to maintain it, you don't want to be allowed for it, give it up. We did that process. Now, some of that got kicked down. This is one of them. That can got kicked down the
Yes.
road, and here we are.
So we did add that, though,
We
we
did.
did add the mileage,
Yep,
but we didn't ascertain where it was exactly.
correct, exactly right. We get state aid based on mileage of different classifications.
Not class fours, so
And not
not
class
particularly relevant to this.
Yeah, and from what I knew before all of this kind of blew up, that was actually an ATV trail that went from Project Lee Block Road down by, where the garden's property is. But that was actually an ATV trail that was maybe occasionally used by the county lumber company. That was about it. And there was very little evidence that the road left, 20 years ago. And then, Holston decided to improve it, and that actually went to the gardeners and asked if that would be okay if we did. And, they agreed to it, not realizing that, they were gonna try and turn this into a highway going up the mountain.
We were never asked.
Oh, I
No
thought you
one
said you
never
did.
came to us about that.
Oh, sorry. I thought that's what you said. Okay. Let's scratch that then.
Okay,
All the same, it doesn't make any sense, that the shape of it. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not like ride down. You know, when you can see that same long, almost straight right of way going all the way across, you know, for miles, on that side of the Red Mountain, you know that was planned and it was approved by the select board many years ago.
Yeah, that
So-
goes all the way down the mountain and all the way.
Can we stop and make sure that all comments are directed to the chair at this point?
Yes.
Just so we can get this section of the meeting done, just so we can get.
I just have a point of clarification. So the right map, he was a surveyor and he didn't have the LiDAR, so he actually went on the mountain. Is that correct?
So,
Okay, head boots on the ground. So you folks are next in line going across. And direct your comments up here so we can, so first the secretary can record it. It's being recorded.
Speak up,
Speak up, because the
mic's all
microphone on that is, it's all electronically recorded. So she'll do the minutes out of the recording.
So, we live on 122 Blue Lot. And
And
I just,
your name?
Julie and Josh.
Okay.
I think the only thing I really want to say is that there's only 3 families that live off of Blue Lot Road. And we didn't know about this meeting except we got a little heads up, and so we looked at the agenda and saw that our road was being discussed at a town meeting. So I think the transparency here is lacking, and this is the first house we've ever owned. We're new to this town. We chose Arlington. We like it here, but this has been like a really poor experience for just knowing what's going on with our own road. So I would just ask you to be mindful of the only 3 families that live off of Blue Lot Road, and if you're gonna make changes, especially having trucks come through a culvert that we're responsible financially for, that we should be a part of that discussion, or at least know that this would happen.
That's the purpose of the meeting, to have, we're gathering input, but it isn't any formal input. We're just getting preliminary information.
Right.
And it wouldn't be, to your point about transparency, it wouldn't be everybody that was involved was and to notify, given opportunities to comment and weigh in and, you know, have your say. So nobody is trying to rush anything through.
I mean, like I said, this is our first house we've ever owned, so not knowing the way that this goes, and then to have just seen on an agenda that our road is being discussed at a meeting, it would have been nice. You have our email, you have our phone, you have our address. It would have just been nice. So like, there's only 3 people. There's only 3 families. This is a thing. So I just want to highlight that.
Dan,
Yes, Matt, go ahead.
because, I mean, when we would have a hearing or anything like that, they would be considered a party of interest and they would
Right.
be fairly warned, correct? I mean,
Correct.
similar to properties in Manchester where other developments have happened and all the homeowners get a proper warning because they're considered a party of interest.
Correct. Absolutely correct, Matt. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry. And just state
Steve
your name.
Gardner, I own the land that they want to go through. One of my bigger concerns is part of my lot is, I've got like 2 pieces of property there. One of them's only like 1.4. What if I wanna, in the future, sell that or build a house on that piece of property? The only place to build it is right about where that road is. It's gonna affect my income severely. Or if I decide to sell the place, it's gonna drop my top dollar way down.
Okay.
All right, I'm Debbie Gardner. I live on Blue Black Road. And, my concern is all the traffic that's gonna go up and down that road. The trucks are enormous that want to go up in there. It is in our backyard. We bought the place for peace and quiet. You know, and we just wanted to kind of keep it that way. Knowing that the Holtons have other ways to access that land. We don't understand why they don't use them. They're available. Why disrupt our lives to go up and down that road? I mean, they have, when it was open, people would go up that road, I bet you 20 times a day, up and down, up and down. And they'd get down on our road and dig it all up, and my husband would have to fix it. And now our culvert is oval shaped because of the trucks. It's just, we want peace and quiet, knowing that Holtons have other ways to get up in there. And they don't want to spend the money. I can't help that. Our land is private.
Can I just?
Yes.
I'm
Question.
not sure I understand what you mean. You say when it was open, there was a lot of traffic. What are you talking about then?
After they upgraded it a little.
Okay, what Mr. Davis was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before it was just wheeler once in a while,
Right,
or somebody walking because it was a pathway.
yeah.
Shirley Messenger used to go up and pick berries. All the berry bushes are gone where they dug them all up. And she loved it. And then when they upgraded it, it just got bigger and bigger, and then they got bigger. He used to drive a digging machine up there, and
So were they upgraded the road that went through your property?
right.
What did you say at that time? I mean, you allowed them to do that?
At that time, we thought it was a class 4. And then it got to be over and over and over again. And then we found out they wanted to build houses, which is fine. Build them. We don't care about that. But don't use our land for your driveway. Because it's just, the traffic is, you know, they go up and down, up and down. And if they're going to be building houses, we're going to have to deal with that. And then I got a lawyer and I talked to her about it. And she said, there is no right of way in your deed for anybody to go up there. Did a title search, did all that. There's nothing there saying that there is a right of way. When Kelnad bought that land, he put in the culvert. He made one road down where, Lang lives. And then the family said, hey, can we buy some of the other land where we are and where Julie and Joss are? And Colin gave the right of way up their driveway, and that's the only right of way from Raven Rock to the up our road to our driveway. There's no right of way anywhere in anybody's deed other than for them to go off Fisher Road and up that way. But we let them use it because we didn't realize it was not a class 4 road, and I was told that also by someone in this room, that it was not a class 4 road. And it should be, do whatever, you know, you gotta do, so we gated it off. Because people would not stop going up and down, up and down. We just wanna be left
Okay.
alone, that's
Yeah.
it.
Julie, knows anyone else? Jim, go ahead. So I'm in there next.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm Jeff White. I'm an attorney from Rutland. I'm working with the gardeners. I want to make an observation. I'm very familiar. I do a lot of real estate. I'm very familiar with surveys. I'm very familiar with surveyors. Surveyors are obviously educated in, you know, their profession, but good surveyors often disagree on location. Now, and I'm familiar with some of the disputes regarding location, because sometimes a surveyor has to make an estimate as to where the property, you know, is located, the lines or whatever. So the fact that we had a presentation here and said, this is the only way it happened, this is the only way it could happen, makes me, well, for lack of a better word, smile a little bit, because we know that there was another survey on the ground that showed it in a different location. The other piece I wanted to talk about real quick I have a copy of the road list from the town. And on Lee Road, says it's private. It's not identified as, it has no number for the road. It's not, no distance is listed. And then this is a copy of off your, website, Town of Arlington, 2023, May 10th. It lists Lee Road, as private. So I'm recognizing the town even doesn't know unless,
Yeah, I
there's-
mean, how can it be a private road and a class 4 trail or whatever road at the
That's-
same time? I
that's
mean,
what I'm asking.
Yeah, so there's,
So these two documents are from the town.
but they're in conflict with each other.
No, these two.
Those are consistent,
These are
but,
consistent.
but they're not consistent with the idea that there's a class 4 trail,
That's
which
right.
is on other documents.
That's, I haven't seen the other documents, but these are the only two that I found
Yeah.
as I was doing my work. Thank you.
Jim, go ahead.
I've been up around here for 43 years. I've done the work. I knew that was a class 4. That's why we went to Key Squires and forget who else I said town. That's why we went there and we asked. We've always been told it's a class 4. Is it a class 4? Yes, it's a class 4. We'd like to improve it. It was never just a 4-wheeler trail. I drove my pickup up through there. I caught people up on that land in trucks. They would go up and drive around and try to go back down to Route 7A. So all we did was improve it. We didn't widen it. We didn't cut a tree. We didn't do nothing. All we did was improve the road that was already there. And so when the Holtzmans were involved in this, they had a road or right of way up there. And the whole town, I got neighbors around me that say, it's always been a class 4. The trucks, the people went back and forth to the kilns up there. When there was a business up there and they used that road to drive up and down. So it's always been a class 4. We probably wouldn't have done this if we'd known it wasn't a class 4, but we've done it. We've got a lot invested in it and they've got their heart set on it. And you keep talking about a lot of traffic. They want privacy. That's what these people come here for. They're gonna have 3 small cabins for family. That's it. And they're not kids. They're in their 60s. It's not like they're a bunch of kids that are gonna have drunken parties up there. I'll tell you, to prove the fact that we don't want a lot of people, we tried to gate it. And Keith told us, no, you can't gate it. And so did Gary Waller told us we couldn't gate it because we wanted to gate it. Said, no, class 4 can't do it. So it's not like it was just a trail or a walk trail. It wasn't. It was a road. I found many a 4-wheel drivers trying to go up through there because they tried to go up and get on the backside of Holtzman's land up there. So it's always been a road. We assumed it was a road. We were told it was a road and we only improved the road that was there. We didn't cut a tree. We didn't do nothing. All we did was improve what was there.
Yeah, and it's already 8:20, so we probably want to keep these next couple of comments as concise as we can, knowing that we will be revisiting
Yes.
this at a
Well,
future
Nick,
date.
Are you saying I'm long-winded?
I'm
No.
saying item 1 on the agenda and
It's
we're
okay.
an hour and 20 minutes
I'm
in,
just
so I just
kidding.
want to get everyone home before, my kid wakes up in the morning.
So I
So,
want to wrap the discussion of Blue Block Road up for tonight. It's obviously needs much more research, much more investigation and so forth.
I would check online if there's anyone with any pressing comments first, just because.
Is there anyone online that has any comments for Blue Block Road? You'll have to unmute yourself and identify yourself.
In that case, I'll close the item.
Hearing none, we will move on.
Want to give us
Alright.
a moment for people to shuffle? I'm just gonna let you guys want
Thank
to
you
go
all.
over.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Nice to meet you. Oh, yeah.
Thank you all for your public service.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Yeah, mine really short.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the ordinance to authorize me to sign the new It was a revised, updated.
Yeah, 2025 local emergency management
Local
plan.
emergency management plan, and, there's been a couple of minor.
It's a lot of contact information updates
Yep.
for people in office. I did not include a copy of the emergency management plan. It all matches with the rubric on the second page.
So you just need to make a motion to authorize me to sign
The
the
left.
document that I have signed.
I'll make a motion to authorize Dan Harvey to sign the local emergency management plan as presented.
Second,
Motion made by Matt and seconded by Cynthia to authorize myself to sign the local emergency management plan, the updated version for 2025. All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, just appointments and resignations. There's a reappointment of Sanjit Chawla
Yep.
Chawla to the Arlington Planning Commission, and a motion to accept Ron Roberts' resignation from the ZBA.
As an alternate.
He's an alternate.
Yes.
so I make a move to appoint Sanjit Chawla as a member of the Arlington Planning Commission and to accept the resignation of alternate member Ron Weber
From the ZBA.
from the ZBA.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to reappoint Sanjit Chawla to the Arlington Planning Commission and accept the resignation from Ron Rugger for the ZBA alternate. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
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 I would just say, Nick, if you could send.
Yeah,
Ron a
I'll send
letter
Ron an
thanking
email
him
that
for
says.
his many years of service. I would appreciate it.
Yes, he has lost track of how many years he served in ZBA combined.
It's a lot.
It's
It is.
further than my records go, and I believe it includes back before I was born, so.
Probably.
In any case,
That would not surprise me.
longtime chairman, so, right.
Yep. Okay, striping quote, you have that?
Yep, and I think I wrote down the number, for the
Oh, yeah.
annual striping.
So this is to top coat applicators from striping through town, which includes the crosswalks, et cetera.
Yep.
On
On town roads, everything on town
all
roads.
town roads. We've done that many times in the past with them, and I see no reason not to continue. They've always been very good to us. The quote is for $9,752 for this year. And I just need a motion to approve. There was no other quotes, correct?
No, because we've never gotten successful, we haven't gotten successful quotes. in-
Do we know what we paid last year with them?
I'm trying to check. But it's
It
up.
wasn't a lot less than that, but a little
Yeah.
bit.
I just am curious because it said on the quote, the increase is due to higher costs of material, insurance, and employee wages, which I totally understand. I just wanted to calculate the percentage of increase between last year and this year. I think that's a good reference for us, especially
Yeah,
when
it
it
was
comes to
Yeah,
budget
actually,
season.
it's like $1,600 more, so it is a substantial increase. 7,904 last year, but we know that the striping paint market is still a wreck. But you can always table this and wait till a lot, to get, and to, see quotes on this closer to when, further in the summer.
I don't need to table it. I was just curious really
Yeah,
because
no, it's 7,904 was the number last year.
And what's the number now?
97.52,
Yes.
20% increase.
yeah,
This is something that that the board should consider, not next year, or not this year, obviously, but in a future year, thinking about whether it should get stencils and sort of down paint to do the work in-house. That's been discussed among highway crews statewide. Most people are still contracting it out, but there have been some people moving inside. It does not address the fact that the paint market is still a wreck. But at least it gives you control of labor costs and equipment costs. And I have not done calculations on like capital costs to do that. But it certainly, if I were seeing a 20% increase this year, you would want to be thinking about maybe in the future,
We also know that may not want to be doing this forever, so you want to have a plan for when it does decide to not be running a business.
So it's top coat or top?
Top coat applicators.
Code applicators.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the bid of $9,752 from Top Coat Applicators to stripe, the. Is that all we just?
Crosswalks and
Crosswalks and
Crosswalks
railroad.
to do
And other-
crosswalks and lane markings on town road.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to approve the quote from Top Coat Applicators for a total of $9,752 for the road striping and crosswalks. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Any opposed?
I think,
Motion
Nick,
carries.
it's an interesting question about, eventually taking over ourselves. I wonder if that would be a possible place where town could cooperate in terms of the stencils. I mean, I think that the paint is the big problem, but I'm a little concerned because we have to do it in the spring and this is our busy
Well,
time.
it's really, you have to do it right before school starts.
Fall.
It's,
Oh, you have to do it
it's,
in
it's
fall.
like August. is the
Okay, well then
only
that's all right because we're not that busy then.
But,
We've got raining, but it's not.
but yeah, it kind of does sit in like the dregs of summer type situation where you can do it at any point in the summer.
Okay, well, that's better.
This is a great idea as a cooperative purchase that could be, multiple towns that own the equipment, all that. Think about that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go in, talk to you guys a little bit more about that later. I've been stewing on it for a very long time. But yeah, the pieces have not come together at this point, in part because Mike is still floating around in the business, and any towns.
Right, but we need to be,
Yeah, you
we need to
definitely
be
need to
ready. We need to be
Need to be
ready.
ready.
Yeah.
So that's that, but yes, point well taken. Liquor licenses.
5.5 liquor licenses. We have a first-class restaurant and bar license and a third-class restaurant and bar license for Ramontos and Arlington. I just need verbal approval.
I make a motion to approve a first-class, liquor license and restaurant bar license and a third-class restaurant and bar license for Arlington Ramontos.
Okay. Motion's made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie. Everybody understand the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This is a second-class license for Bonnie's and Clyde's Corner Market.
I make a motion to approve a second-class license for Bonnie and Clyde's Corner Market.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to approve the second-class license for Bonnie and Clyde's Corner Market. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Fire department, there, 5.6.
Mr. Hawley. So, I was approached last week by 3 members and asked if I thought that some members could go to the FDIC, big fire convention. We talked about it. We were over there on Sunday, a few of us, we talked about it. I said, I can ask. So first thing I did was approach Jamie, said, hey, has this ever been done? Do you think it's something that could happen? Been done in the past. I don't know if it was called FDIC, but members have gone places. So what we talked about over there and looked at, was, there's a bunch of vendors, stuff that we deal with now where you're meeting directly with the business, like Scott Air Packs, it's not our salesman, you're meeting with the Scott people. Fire trucks, we're in the process of starting up a fire truck committee, as y'all know, because we're like 3 years out. Every one of them will be there. We thought about architects for the new building. We could kind of talk to them. So we kind of floated that around. It's the thing goes this whole week. It started today. Like I said, this is last minute. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are big classroom sessions, which we're a little too late to get in on them. Then you have your exhibit, which is $87 a day per person to go into the exhibits. It was mentioned back to me that, hey, is there any training? There is some hands-on training
It's hang on, let me open my phone. $472 per person to do a hands-on training. Those trainings last anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. But they're lecture trainings, so we could still get into them. But my goal this year was to go out, see what it's all about, and maybe fit it into our training budget and rotate people through. It's a nice, we can go get a bunch of information, but it's also giving back to some members. I know we all can't go, right? So I was asking for 5 to start. Quick estimate, rough estimate was anywhere between $1,800 and $2,200. By the time we pay for gas, we found an Airbnb if we're not too late to book, all that. I just, it was a last minute thing. These guys that had approached me spend a lot of time at the firehouse. And I said, this might be a way to say thanks, and we can go get a lot of valuable information that we can use. I just passed it along, and I was asked to be here tonight. So either way, I understand it's last minute. And that kind of stuff, just when people ask me if we can do these kind of things, I like to take it as far as I can to try to get them answers.
Dan,
Yes, go ahead.
I'll weigh in on this. I read the information and I thought about it. I'm not opposed to setting up a program to send some members to a trade show at some point. My concern is the short notice on this, and personally, as a seasoned trade show expert that goes to huge trade shows regularly, I think it behooves anyone to go in with a specific plan and already have vendor meetings pre-scheduled before you arrive at a trade show. In my experience, just walking the trade show floor without a very specific agenda and meeting set up turns into, I won't say a waste of time, but turns into being a little chaotic, and you don't get as much out of it as you would if you had vendor meetings pre-scheduled, maybe attend some of the lectures at that trade show. So I'm not opposed to this in the future. I think my reservation is the short timeline, and knowing that our fire department team hasn't had an opportunity to really set up those meetings and, build a plan and a path to which you're going to walk the trade show floor, and all of that kind of precursor work that really makes attending such show valuable. So I have reservations about the short notice on this and going to Indianapolis, wherever that is, Indianapolis, I think you said, this week. But I would say if there is another show, I know that there's, we went to that small show in Connecticut, but there's a show in Syracuse, and, with a little bit more planning, really mentor the fire department team and get them set up for success if they were to go to a trade show in the future.
Any other thoughts?
I'm not necessarily opposed to this. However, I think that I'm most interested in having our budget go towards equipment and training. The training component would be what I would be most interested in. But I'm open to the possibility of the future, but it's not in the budget. This is last minute. I just don't see the necessity of adding it, adding this expenditure in this time when we have the whole rest of the year to go. We don't know what equipment we're going to need, and there's an opportunity cost of spending the budget on this instead of something else that the fire department might need.
And I will note, the uptake of training this year has meant that much more of the training budget at this stage is spoken for than would normally be, or what has historically been the last couple of years at this point.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a great thing.
So you're gonna be getting a check back Our biggest training that we do every year got canceled.
Did it? Oh,
Yes.
It did.
I saw the first cancellation. I didn't see the second
So-
ones.
Right now, the only thing out of the training budget will be, you'll be getting a bill from the Arlington Fire Protection, because be upfront of the cost. I think it's like $1,300 or $1,400. But all the money that we just spent on when Nick did the card for the biggest training we do, which is the Southern Vermont Regional Fire School, got canceled due to lack of participation.
In the year that we were gonna be showing up in spades.
So they had 69 sign up, and we had 14 of them, 69 that were gonna go.
And that wasn't enough, 69 wasn't enough.
Not for 2 days and the
Nope,
number of
that's 2 days
courses
of
they
training.
did.
When they want 25 per class.
There used to be years where you had to pick 3 classes and you still got turned down.
Yeah.
You know, could I suggest something that perhaps in lieu of going to this, we look at the exhibitor and vendor list of who is going to be at FDIC, and we go down through that, figure out who you'd be interested in speaking with. Those are the manufacturers. And we could reach out to those manufacturers directly and ask to have their regional rep come and visit with the fire department. That would be totally not out of the ordinary. They're salesmen, right? They want to sell their product. So we call them, we tell them to come to us, show us your wares, show us how it works, let us play with it, see if it's something that we want. I think that, you know, I understand like, hey, we want to look at vendors. Maybe we haven't ever dealt with ABC Company. We want to look at them. Let's call ABC Company and tell them to come to us throughout the year. And we can also build relationship, you know, as you talk, Brian spoke about, you know, they're going to start looking at a fire truck again. We make those vendors come to us, sell us a fire truck, come here. The manufacturer will come. And I also have a little bit of a reservation in actually paying money for a trade show. Some vendors should give us passes to the trade show at no charge.
Do you have any?
So Brian contacted me about this, and I know in the past we have gone to Baltimore, we have gone to Indianapolis in the past with a few members. Similarly, they did some training. They also did the vendor shows and brought back a lot of information about that. We purchased trucks with some of the information that we have gotten in the past. So, given the fact that we are looking at a new firehouse, I did look at the vendor list. There are 8 national and international architect companies that are going to be there. But I mean, we talked, it was late in the game. So,
You know, like I
I
said.
think if we had more notice and we could have set up specific appointments with those architects to talk with them and stuff like that, it's just, I know from my experience, you know, I was just at a huge international trade show in January. And if you don't have an appointment, you're not really getting that much information at a booth, especially if the trade show is very busy.
yeah. The New York show in Syracuse is the first week of June. So I don't know if that would be something that you would consider if this doesn't go.
I think,
It's a little closer.
yeah, well, I'm kind of in the same camp about the last minuteness of it. However, if we can do something closer and keep in mind next year, put it right in the budget.
Put a line in the budget.
Put a line
for
in the
Break the
budget.
training out
Conference.
to
For that
training and
specific
conference.
thing.
Right.
Like this.
And 2 things that'll do is, number one, you'll have an idea of what you want to accomplish. The other thing is you will have lead time enough to get a decent price on either travel or travel and housing, whatever, instead of last minute, which is usually highest pricing. Even for an Airbnb, it's going to be higher than normal. But if you've got 60 days or 80 days or 100 days lead time to book it, then you're going to get a better.
Syracuse and June sounds a lot better.
So,
Yeah.
when they mentioned it to me, the only reason that one of the reasons I jumped on it was because of Matt and Jamie, if you remember, we went down to that one that used to be big, which is a nothing show now, really.
Yep.
And with talking with Dorset Fire, this is their second year going to FDIC and some others. This show is the only show that has everything. There's 938 vendors that are there. I mean, Syracuse.
I appreciate that. I think
What Matt's saying, but it was just, you know, that idea that we could, the same thing we did down there, right? We popped in and we talked to that architect, you know. We popped in, we talked to the salesman. Yes, we can have them come here, but you're gonna see 2 or 3 or 4 of their trucks right there. You're not gonna see that in Arlington. You're gonna see a computer, you're gonna see a spreadsheet. I've been doing trucks for a lot of years. Jamie has. That's all you're gonna see. You're not gonna see the latest, the greatest, all that stuff, you know?
I don't
That's
disagree with that. I would actually, Dan, is, you know, I'm thinking about it, and I think, Jamie, you mentioned that the Syracuse show is in June. That's in essence, if you've got a couple drivers, I've been driving past Syracuse continually for the last, since November, right? So, one of my thoughts was maybe we make a plan to visit the Syracuse show and set it up and do some mentoring so that the fire department team could put together a plan to attend FDIC next year and be very effective. I'm not opposed to the cost if we've got a plan and preset appointments and it can be very effective, right? And maybe the Syracuse show, you know, it hopefully that show should be bigger than the one in Connecticut. And I appreciate that you do see some new product, right, that's ahead of public release or anything like that, or it is released at the show. I totally understand that. So I would think that we hit a more regional show where we can go out and back. It's a long day, but it's okay. You go out and back, get some experience before you go to a really big show like this.
Great idea.
Would there be training programs at the Syracuse Road Show? Because
There are,
that's really-
they don't have everything out yet.
No, I know and they won't have as much as the Indianapolis thing,
No.
which sounds like it's the biggest one. But to me, for town dollars to go towards this program, the training is essential. That has to be a really big component of what's going on, especially if other forms of training have
Are
like
being
fallen
canceled.
through. And I know these are not the same training, but whatever training they're offered, I would really like our guys to be at those trainings and then do the contacting and everything around it. But the training, getting signed up for the trainings, that should be, that's what's worth the trip, in terms of public dollars from my perspective.
And the amount we're getting back I'm thinking would probably cover Syracuse.
Absolutely.
And there's no other opportunity
The
for
amount
training,
Getting back would cover her.
but there's no
Cover
other opportunity.
FDIC, I mean.
There's no other opportunity for training from the state or anything this year,
Oh,
right?
there is, I mean,
There are.
There's
There
always
is.
small things,
there's small things
Okay.
here.
but
that-
Not the two
our
days.
main, our
thing.
main training got canceled.
Right, no,
too.
I get that, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, that's where
Where those there are gonna be, like, out there.
there's gonna be a
FDIC
conference
lecture,
hall,
You're gonna be in a conference hall.
with 200 people.
Yeah, no,
200
I know
people.
that, I know that,
You're
but it's better than
Where
nothing,
at, where
better than
at the
nothing.
regional school, you're gonna be hands-on.
Nope, I know that, but it's better to be in a hall than have nothing, you know, what I mean, because at least you find out more about what you need. I mean, so I would like it, I can't support this proposal, but I would very much like to see a fleshed out proposal for the Syracuse show and what's gonna be available and what it will cost, and then we can think about, what do you think about that?
And that's probably want to be on that relatively soon, so maybe,
Right.
maybe even have that ready for the next agenda to be.
Can we have that ready for the next meeting?
And
They don't have a whole
Brian,
lot
as the fire department liaison, I'm happy to help and build that plan with you guys, and mentor you in, making that Syracuse trip very successful and bringing forward a really nice proposal to the rest of the board.
Excellent. Okay,
Okay. So Town Administrator Committee and transition.
okay. So step one is decide next steps for the committee. And I know, Dan, you said
I have
you're
contacted
comfortable with this.
several
where you're at.
individuals. One I have not yet been able to contact, but Todd Wilkins has agreed to be on the committee. Nicole Whalen, should you guys decide to want to do that, and Joe Day would be happy to serve. One other one that I thought it was Pam Halbert, she's the one I haven't been able to get hold of yet.
Planning chair, Siegel has also unsolicited, offer to help as necessary.
Okay.
I'm just putting his name out there that because he did contact me.
He could be an alternate, right?
Yeah, he's involved in so many things that he's happy to advise even on an informal basis.
Okay.
Because he's helping drive home a couple of other projects right now that are important. So I don't want to overload him, certainly.
I believe the last committee, I don't remember everybody was on, but I know Matt was, I was. Nicole was instrumental
and
because
Meryl.
that's what she, and Meryl Bent was. But Nicole, her whole profession at that time was doing nothing but pre-screening applicants. And as I understand it from Nick, informally, we have several dozens of applicants.
So
There was one other person on that original committee, right? Because it was Meryl, Nicole, and because it was 2 select board and 3 community. Who was the 3rd?
Right.
Probably okay.
It might have been Joe, but I don't think it was Joe. I don't remember who it was exactly, but I
Because
think
Dan, you and I were on from
was,
select board, right? Go ahead, Janet.
I think it was Pam Halbert. I think she was
Yes, it
I'm
was.
pretty sure it was Pam.
Thank you.
That's why I wanted to ask her, but I'm thinking out loud here, I'm thinking we want to have 2 select board members, and I don't really care which 2. I'd like Matt to do it because he's done it in the past and he's familiar with that. But if any one of you guys want to do it, fine. If you don't, I'll do it. But
I'd be up for it. I
Okay.
spend a lot of time chatting with Nick now. I
okay.
probably
I think you'd be great at it.
see him more than anybody
That's
else.
good.
honestly.
I was actually going to ask you if you want to do that.
And
But I think
I'm
we
happy
do
to
2
serve.
select board members. We do 2 select board members. We don't
We'd have to
vote
do
on
a
meeting.
board meeting, correct?
We can just have
No.
frank
Yeah,
discussions and then,
if it's, you won't have to warn any meetings if
Yeah.
you do. So,
but,
so someone make a motion and
somebody make a motion and Pam, I know has recently lost her husband, so maybe that's not the good solution for her, but, that may be why I can't get a hold of her, but.
Okay, so what are we thinking? Matt and Jamie and Todd and Nicole? Or what are we thinking?
And
Matt,
Joe,
And Joe?
Joe.
And Joe?
Jamie, Joe O'Day,
Okay.
Nicole Whalen, and Todd Wilkins.
I make a motion to appoint, Jamie Pouston, Matt Bykowski, Todd Wilkins, Nicole Whalen, and Joe O'Day as the town administrator selection committee.
Selection subcommittee.
Selection subcommittee.
second.
Motion made by Cynthia and second by Glenn to appoint Todd Wilkins, Nicole Whalen, Joe O'Day, Jamie Poston, and Matt Bykowski to the town administrator subcommittee for selection. And any discussion?
The only comment that I'll have is just for the record, this is an advisory committee and it sounds like the sense of the board is that this committee will have no independent decision-making authority.
Correct.
Correct? Good. I just want to get that on the record in a minute.
Recommendations to the board, call it down to a couple or 3 candidates, and
That,
then we'll do live interviews or Zoom interviews. or
that makes
whatever.
it so that even while you're sub-quorum, you do not have to, like, you have the second layer of protection that it couldn't be seen as something that you have to warn meetings for.
Right.
Because you can have subcommittees that are subject to these,
Yep.
if they're sub-quorum. So thank you.
And that'll follow the same process as what we did last
Absolutely.
time. That's the
Yeah.
exact same path we took the last time.
Correct. The only thing that is different is this advisory situation that open meeting law has changed. And so some committees
Okay.
have actual decision-making authority and those committees will behave differently than rural committees.
And when does the applications close?
They're open until you guys decide it, or until you set a deadline. The ads will be running for the next couple of days, and then you'll have your final ad-driven applicant pool by, I would say, next Monday. You'll run out of budget, depending on what the Indeed stuff is. So your LinkedIn ads will be running through another 24 to 48
I think the
hours.
application period should close when the Indeed and LinkedIn ad or wherever we. zip
When the
it.
money runs out.
When
Yeah.
it runs out,
Okay.
that should be our application close date.
So I will edit, if you want to say the job is open until Friday, just to cover that, and then anyone, because you have not had a deadline on this until right now. So anyone who's dragging their feet on the application, you have until Friday. We can edit the application information to say on the website, that'll say this process
Perfect.
closes.
I'm good with that. Anybody else have any?
Okay, so that's what I'll take in the marching orders. And any other items for public session on the transition.
We have to vote on that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. All right. So that's done, and we will notify those individuals by phone or email or whatever.
Yep.
Is there any other business to be brought before the board?
Do warrants and orders before we go in executive session.
I was thinking that if we don't have any decisions to make. Okay. All right, so.
Okay, so this is the water department, and the largest component is the Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance premium, $3,757. There's also supplies for $1,000. I make a motion to approve check warrant report number WD7 dated 4/4/25 in the amount of $6,186.54. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn. Approve check warrant report WD number 7, total amount of $6,186.54. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so the next is gonna be the town of Arlington's general fund invoices. The larger component is returning the ash borer grant.
Yes,
Right, and what, I can't remember what it was,
the bids all blew out and we couldn't get it done because the amount
we
of,
timed out,
yeah, the amount of wires were
It came
not,
back
Right,
in way too
right.
high.
were caused our bid.
Oh, the bids were really too high,
The bids-
okay.
Yes.
So we had gotten this grant to cut down the ash trees in town to prevent the spread of, what is that? The
Ash
emerald
borer.
ash borer. And we were unable to fulfill the grant. The amounts were way too high. So, because it was very complicated with wires and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we are returning the amount of that grant, $5,333. So that's a big part of this. The rest of it is just things like fire department, trailer signs, a windshield, recycling BCRC. I make a motion to approve check warrant report number 7 for the town of Arlington dated 4/4/25 in the total amount of $15,357.26.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to approve check warrant report number 7, total amount of $15,357.26. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
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 Motion carried.
Before we go into executive session, the one thing that I forgot in the transition was the contract with Cynthia for
Oh,
the
for the-
TA, yes, for the TA coverage. So
Do you have a paper copy of that?
I will print out a paper copy, but
But
there,
I can tell them the background.
Yep.
Had they seen that?
it was in the board
It was
package.
in the board packet, okay. So, so what I did was, I discussed this with Dan and Nick, and Janet was able to find payroll showing what Keith had gotten. And at one point in like 2018, he was getting $24 an hour. And then at one point in 2020, he was getting $25.46 an hour. And I feel that given that this is, a temporary interim situation, that $25 an hour is a good place to be. And so that's what I would like. And the hours will vary between 12 and 20. If I had to go over 20 hours a week, I would be in touch with the board. And I will have regular office hours, and then I would be compensated for meetings that I would not ordinarily attend. So this meeting, obviously, I'm coming to wastewater, all those things. Those are not part of this.
Right.
This is only things that I would not otherwise be doing. So, and I will be on call. I'll have the TA phone, so I will have that function. And is that covering most of it now?
You're good to go. Yep, I think that,
So I wanted it on public record, how I came up with that number. And I think it's, I think it's a valid number.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds fair to me.
Absolutely.
And the agreement looked
We need-
good. I had
we need
no
a motion
concerns
for
with
this.
the agreement.
So Dan looks like Dan has to sign it.
Or you can authorize me to sign it.
yeah, motion. Authorize
I'll
the
make a
sign.
motion to approve the contract agreement for temporary town administrative services contractor Cynthia Browning as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Matt and seconded by Glenn to approve the interim town administrator services of Cynthia. At a total of
It's $25
per hour for 12 to 20 hours per week is a temporary.
I think it's 2
employment.
months. I think we put 2 months, 2 months, or maybe we didn't.
It's a
even put that. I don't know.
period, it's a period until terminated by the town.
Okay, there you
Right,
go.
right. So,
So,
anybody
Only
else?
one note, Dan, is that there's a typo on the second page at the end, under the signatures, I think.
I see that, sorry about that. Yeah,
But just
got it.
cross it out and initial it and you'll be good.
Yep,
What is it?
I forgot to edit Colette's name to Cynthia's from the
Oh.
template I used.
So that'll be Cynthia Browning.
So I have to sign it. There we
Yes,
go.
you have to sign it.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's very important, some people has thought that, I have Nick's job. No, this is temporary. This is an interim. This is filling in while we do our due diligence to hire the best candidate. So it's really important that people understand that that's what this is.
This is just keeping the lights on
Right.
and
Yeah.
moving forward.
Have we voted on that yet?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Abstain.
There's the other. Okay,
Okay, exec session.
so we need to establish, make a motion to establish the reason for the executive session as a personnel matter. And allow Nick. Oh, you're not in
No,
there.
it's just- it's just
I'll make
the
a motion that a premature discussion of a personnel matter could cause the town to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
Perfect.
Second.
I did that from memory.
Good. Motion made by Matt and seconded by Glenn to establish reason for the executive session as a personnel matter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'm sure Jamie will agree.
Okay, perfect.
And then we.
I'll make a further motion to enter into executive session for said personnel matter and to allow town administrator Nick Zias to remain in the room.
Second.
Motion made by Matt and seconded by Glenn to enter into executive session. Town administrator Zias to remain in the room. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Madam,
Will someone call my mobile?
I will
You
do
can
that.
Call my mobile.
Dan, can I ask about the tax abatement?
Recording stopped.
Yeah, go ahead.
Recording in progress.
So it
Now we have to
is,
finish up.
Yeah.
9:14.
it is 9:14 and we're back in regular session. There was no decisions to be made from the executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Jamie, seconded by Glenn. We are adjourned.
Awesome.
Thank you.